Minicast episode 2. Let's get into it. We form who we are based on the experiences when we're younger. And I was raised in a way that was very caring, very nurturing. My mom was always very supportive of me. She treated me with kindness and compassion. She was a great mother. But with that has its downsides. And once my parents split up, when I was about 10, I found myself rather repressed. And this carried on for years and years. My stepmother, who had married my dad after my parents split up, was very dominant and very, what she said goes. You don't talk back, you don't ask questions, you do as you're told. And that was very different from how I was raised, and I didn't know how to cope with it, especially at that very critical age of entering into manhood, per se, going through puberty. And so I was very repressed. And I found that when I spoke up, or when I said why I didn't want to do what I did, I suffered the consequences of that. And so for years on, I had no assertiveness. And this is a huge deal because this was the biggest change that I ever made in my life, was becoming assertive. And it hits home because someone very close to me is dealing with a similar problem where she doesn't know when to hold her ground and she feels guilty. And this is something that people use because agreeableness is a personality trait. So I highly recommend going to understandmyself.com. It's by Jordan Peterson. He sells a product called the Big 5 Aspect Scale. So I did it. I did the entire thing. It's like a ton of pages. It's like 18 pages. That's part of my book, but it's 18 pages and it breaks down. You answer like 100 questions as honestly as you can, and you gotta really take your time and think about how you truly feel and how you truly act. And it turns out my agreeableness is very low. I'm in the bottom 8th percentile for agreeableness, which is good because it makes me assertive. It makes me not good because I tend to argue, and I guess I'm not agreeable. So I might seem to, I'm very skeptical and competitive, and it all makes sense, but I wasn't always like that, and I had to change. And I think it was a change for the better. Yes, I'm more of a dick now, but I learned to say no. And that is, it's all in how you look at it. It's good to look out for other people. It's good to be caring and compassionate and polite. But there's a line, because with this particular individual that I'm talking about, she has no assertiveness, and people walk all over her. And that's the problem, because think of it as a bigger issue. Actually, let's look at it in small pieces, right? For example, you go to a gas station, someone cuts you off in line. You're pissed, but you don't do anything. You think to yourself, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just one person behind the line. But then it's like, this is exactly a confrontation that I was forced with before, last year. It was almost a year ago. It was about 9 months ago. Someone cut in line. I was with a girl. We were getting ready to go into a crowded bar. It was like a club. And these girls like cut in front of us. And I was like, yo. And I said to her like very loud, I was like, those people just cut in front of us. And they kind of like turned and looked like, what? You know, girls. Because these were probably 4 years younger than us, probably, if I was to guess. And they just think they could do whatever they want because they're girls. And it was in like a college town, and that's how college girls are. They think that because they're pretty, they could just do what they want. And I'm like, fuck that, no. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're attractive. And I call people out all the time. I don't care. And then her friends, I watched them. Like, I was talking to her, but I looked out of the corner of my eye and I could see them like sneak around us. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I already watched your friends cut. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? We didn't cut. I was like, dude, I just watched you. I just watched you cut in line. And she's like, no. So I was like, no, get back to where you were. And of course, the girl who I was with was like, relax. Like, they didn't cut. Like, what? I was like, whatever. She's like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So the first people cut, and then more people cut, and then more people cut. So then they're just getting to cut the line, and we're going to wait and just stay in the same spot in line because people keep cutting in front of us. No, fuck that. I'm not letting it happen. So, of course, it turned into like an argument, and I was pissed off. But it was like, I'm not just, because it's like a little thing, but it's like they compound. And these minor chances to assert yourself, they compound and they build up and snowball. And it's like, it could be something like that, or it could be, for example, I don't like to make a big deal about little things. If I go out to eat and, you know, I order spray butter instead of butter for my pancakes, like to be cooked. and you could tell that they were cooked in butter or something, for example, or they put butter on my potato and I don't ask for it. I don't make a big deal about it. I'm like, okay, like, I didn't order butter, but it's like, I'll just scoop it off. It's no big deal. Like, that to me isn't a huge deal, but some people make a big deal about it. There are things that you need to be assertive and state what the issue is. And some things aren't. I mean, if you have like a medical condition, for example, say you have diabetes and they give you regular Coke instead of Diet Coke, like, yeah, that's a big deal and you need to pay attention to that, and you need to make a big deal about that. But with things like just the minor things, I think that you should assert yourself. So I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself in terms of like dinner, but it's like I've worked in food service and I've worked in customer service and I know what that's like. It's not the waitress's fault. And they feel the tension and they feel like you hate them, because most people do. They bitch at the server, but it's like the server's not the one making the food. Maybe they took the order down wrong, but chances are it's probably the cook's fault. So you shouldn't take it out on the waitress. So that's kind of like where I sit on that, why I'm a little more understanding in terms of like restaurants and settings like that. But I do assert myself when need be. You know, if someone cuts in line or if someone's being rude, it's like, dude, why are you acting like that? You know, and what people do is when you're too agreeable, they walk all over you. They don't treat you with respect. And they attempt to manipulate you through guilt. And what I noticed is people don't like when you change. And if you aren't assertive, say you back down. Like when I was younger, I would always back down until I started to pick up when I was like 17, but I didn't truly become assertive and comfortable in stating my position on things until I was about 21, 22 years old, maybe 23. And it took a level of, it was courage, but I guess you just have to realize that people are going to walk all over you your entire life if you do not change. And that's what I explained to this person was, you have to make this change, and you can't let people guilt you because they don't want you to change. They're used to you being a doormat. So then when you do speak up and you do act bad, like you act in response because you don't want to do what they're proposing. You've been doing something, you've been a people pleaser your whole life, and now all of a sudden you're setting boundaries. They don't like that. And they're used to you being a certain way. And when you change, they don't like it because they can't take advantage of you anymore. And then they try to manipulate you. And narcissistically, they'll try to guilt you, as I said, and it just causes arguments. But I think it's for the better, because it's not that, the first step is to becoming more assertive is to simply say no. Not just because, but it's like if you feel it in your body and you don't want to do something and someone's trying to pressure you to do something, just say no. And it's not you saying no to them, it's you saying yes to yourself. And that's a really big distinction, because you're staying true to yourself, staying true to your body, and you're doing what is right. Whether it's right is open to interpretation, but it's what you feel in your body, and that's what you need to do, because we don't listen to our bodies enough. And sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. That's not saying be defiant. Of course, there are times when you have to be defiant, but agreeableness is it's catchy, because there are roles in biology and in our psychology that it's advantageous to be agreeable, and you don't want to be disagreeable like me. But assertiveness is extremely important, from relationships to your relationships with intimate relationships, as well as relationships within an employer or with a boss, because you can't negotiate your salary, because people that are really agreeable tend to negotiate on the behalf of others far more than they negotiate for themselves. So they could think as a collective what we need to do, but they'll oftentimes put themselves on the back burner in order to benefit everybody else. And I'm not saying that you need to be phallic and narcissistic and phallic, narcissistic, or a stoic in ways, but there are times when you need to be, and that's kind of where I've been, is I don't do things that I don't want to do. And not to say that I'm not willing to change or try new things. It's a challenge, and I hate change a lot, but I realize that it's something that I have to do. But if, for example, someone wants me to go, my friends wanted me to go to New York City for SantaCon this year. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'll go here on Long Island, but I'm not going to the city. Well, how come? What's the difference? I'm like, dude, I hate the city. I hate New York City so much. I hate everything about it. There's people everywhere, traffic everywhere. It fucking smells like shit and piss. It's chaotic. People are rude. There's people everywhere bumping into you, and I don't like that, because when you get in my space, we got a problem. And I fucking give people dirty looks all the time because they like bump into me. I'm like, dude, you're not going to acknowledge that? But that's how they are in New York City, and I don't like that, so I don't go. And they're like, oh, like, let's go, like, just drink a little bit and it'll be fine. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. If you want to compromise and come to where I want to go, or maybe we could figure out somewhere halfway in between, or maybe a plan that works for both of us, then we could do it. But I'm not going to New York City. And of course, I like to hang out with my friends, and it might have been fun, but I said no. And I practiced my assertiveness. And, you know, that's the key for negotiating, really. And this is perfect, like I was saying, for employers. You need to be able to negotiate for your salary. And this is why people that are far less agreeable, which tend to be women are more agreeable. So those who tend to be more agreeable do not earn as much money because they cannot negotiate for a wage. And this is a huge thing. You should read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. It's a great book. Right now, I'm currently doing the audiobook for it. I'm about halfway through. It's a good book, but he's a master at negotiating. And you can see it in our fucking politics. It's crazy. But he's really good. And I've like learned some tricks and tips from him. A couple other psychology, like YouTube channels and stuff like that, reading articles. You could learn a lot. But negotiating is key. And the biggest thing is being able to walk away and mean it. If you have in your mind what you want to do, mind my blood blisters. I had a dunk contest, and I got these nice little blood blisters ready to pop. But you need to be able to walk away and mean it. If they don't meet your demands, it's same with buying a car, for example. And this is the mindset that I had when I went in to buy my new car. Is I was like, okay, I know what I want. I know what I'm willing to pay. What are you going to do for me? Because I know the dirty tricks that these car dealerships play. I know that they can get a lower price than the sticker price. I know that they make profit based on how much I buy the car for. So when they come out with their various options, I'm like, okay. And I took my sweet ass time. I pulled out the calculator. I was doing all kinds of math, because normally they propose 3 options per se. Every time I've purchased a vehicle, they provide some options. You always bargain lower than you expect to get. So say the car sticker price is $25,000. You could probably get away right off the get-go, be like, look, I want this car. I've looked at a couple other options. I got one other place that I'm going to look at after this, but if you could give me a good deal, then I'll take your car. I'll buy it right now, but you got to give me a good deal. They'll be like, okay. Okay, cool. So you've been looking at other cars. I'll be like, yes. I see that it's on for 25. What do you say we do 16.5? They're not going to take that, obviously. But that's the point. That's the point of negotiating. You set the bar low because you know that you're going to have to negotiate, and somewhere you're going to get the price down regardless. So it's getting it as close to the lowest number that you can do. And, you know, they came out with 3 options for different like interest rates, different amount down. And I was just like, okay. And they expect you to, boom, just take the number that has the lowest monthly payment, and then that's it. And like, you just do that. And I'm like, okay. So I just sat there looking over the options. It probably took me 10 minutes before I actually made a decision, because I was like, I know that they're doing this to try to confuse me. But little do they know, I know their tactics, and I'm also intelligent. So like, you're not going to be able to trick me with your little math games. So I did that. I got a decent deal. I could have got a better deal on the car, honestly, but I straight up told them I want this car today. So you can say, like I said before, when I was stating the example, you can say, I looked at some places, I want to buy this car, but you got to give me a good deal. And that's the key. And if they don't meet your terms, they say, okay, so instead of $25,000 for the sticker price, we'll do 23. I'd be like, I'm sorry. There's a better deal, and you guys have a nice day. And chances are, because I've heard this story so many times, you start walking out the door, and they're like, oh, wait. Actually, I just talked to my manager, and he said that we could give you a deal for 20K. It's like, yeah, exactly. And that just goes to show you, you were busting my balls trying to confuse me and manipulate me into giving you more money because they get paid on commission. So the higher the price is that they could sell the car for, whoever the like sales representative is, they're going to make more money. So of course they want to sell the money for more. They're not going to want a lower cut. So it's just little things like that. You got to be able to walk away and mean it. And this goes for negotiating for a car or a job. Say you want to raise, right? Because this is something that I'm going through right now. And I know that I work really hard. I bust my ass at work. I always go above and beyond. I do extra projects. I take on extra work. I'm staying late. I work a shitload of overtime every single week. I pick up weekend shifts all the time. And it's like, they offered a promotion to somebody else. So they hired somebody from outside the company instead of promoting me on the job that I was being trained for. And I was like, it was so disrespectful. So I was like, okay. I started applying to new jobs. And once that time comes where something pays a lot more, I'm going to be like, listen, I like working for your company, but you guys are taking advantage of me. And if you want to continue to have my work ethic and my skill set, then you need to do something for me. And I would like an $8,000 a year raise, or I would like to be promoted because I've been working and I don't understand why you hired somebody from outside the company to do the job that I'm doing. That makes no sense. So that's basically long and short of it. It could go for that. It could come down to relationships. Negotiating is huge in relationships. Had this happen, I guess, recently, like this past 2 weeks, was a negotiation as far as what's acceptable and what's not. And it's hard, but the point of negotiating is you find common ground and you see what you can agree on. And sometimes, the outcome might suck. It might not be exactly what you want, but you tried. And you have to have that conviction. You need to be able to walk away and mean it. If you find that the partner that you've chosen has a behavior or a certain thing they do that you cannot tolerate and it drives you insane, you have to tell them, listen, you need to change this or I'm out. And you need to stay true to that. Because guess what? If you don't, every single time you threaten to break up or you threaten something, you give them a warning, it doesn't count for anything. They don't respect you. And without respect, you're a fucking doormat. And you're too agreeable. And you're going to be taken advantage of. And that's what happens in the modern man. That is what happens because we have been trained, we have been pussified. And we have been trained to kowtow to women and their desires, and society and their desires, and you can't be a man anymore because it's toxically masculine. And fuck that, because you need masculine energy. You need men. You need men. You need manly men, and not these beta, soy boy, pushover, weak types. Because someone comes into your house to rob you and kill you, and say rape your girlfriend or steal your kids. What are you going to do? You're going to curl over like a little bitch? No. You're going to defend the house. You're going to defend your family. And, it's an instinct in us. It's biological. And I want to go into a tirade about that. I probably will. I'll probably make a part 2 to this and go into biology and psychology because we really are so programmed. And it's so obvious and so blatant, but we don't think about it. It's so crazy. But I'm going to end this. This ended up being way longer. I thought this was going to be a 7-minute video. It turned out to be like 18, but I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.